Hello and welcome to 5-Year Club video number 233. And tonight I would like to discuss or remind you of one of the mental heuristics that people use to think about things. And in particular, this is called the availability heuristic. Reading off Wikipedia, the availability heuristic is a mental shortcut that relies on immediate examples that come to a given person's mind when evaluating a specific topic, concept, method, or decision. The availability heuristic operates on the notion that if something can be recalled, it must be important, or at least more important than alternative solutions which are not as readily recalled. Subsequently, under the availability heuristic, people tend to heavily weight their judgments toward more recent information, making new opinions biased toward that latest news. And I think that I would add to this, because if you look at it, if something can be recalled, it must be important. Immediate examples, right? What this is saying is that the stuff that's easy to think about, the stuff that's easy to recall, is going to influence your judgment more than things that you can't recall or that's not easy to get at. Now, what does this mean? It means that if you are making an important decision, and there's like 3 different variables, but one of those variables is really difficult to calculate, really difficult to figure out. You may pretend that it's nothing. You may pretend that it's not in the equation. You may just weight it at 0, even though it can completely dominate the outcome of whatever decision you're making. And this is very dangerous because you can think that you're being very objective while you're thinking through something, when in fact you are leaving out a huge part of the calculation simply because it is difficult to either recall, compute, or look up. And so, it's called availability heuristic, but I would also say that there is such, you could say it's availability bias. People are biased towards thinking about things that are easy for them to think about. Man, I got a creepy cat in the background. Did you even see that? She's right there, on top of that speaker. Mari, you are a creeper. When did you even get on top of that speaker? I'm gonna have to rewatch this video. I'm worried now. This is a dangerous 5-Year Club episode. So, yeah. And what's the solution to this? Well, I think, it's a difficult problem because in some ways, like, you don't know what you don't know. And so a lot of times you're not even sure what the relevant variables are when you're thinking through a problem. And you're not even sure how you're going to figure that out. I would say that I find it very helpful for me a lot of times to try to back up from the problem and just try to see the problem from a higher and higher level and convince myself of something at a higher and higher level. So, for example, when I say, what do I want to do with my life? I don't ask myself, what do I want to do right now? Instead, I back up and I look at the whole arc of my life and I say, what do I want to recall on my deathbed? What do I want to think on my deathbed about how I lived? Similarly with different purchasing decisions, I'm less interested in like how much stuff have I purchased today. I'm more interested in how much stuff have I purchased this year, or how am I doing this year on savings rate or whatever it is. So I always try to back up from the problem and to see it as a much bigger thing, either in terms of picking a longer time span or in terms of picking, not being too focused on like only the food budget amount. Instead, making sure that I look at the entire budget and that the food budget is even the thing in that entire budget that deserves the most thinking. Because a lot of times somebody will think really hard about the food budget because they can calculate that grocery store receipt. It's available. It's right there. But if they actually backed up, they would see that it's their housing that's actually killing them. But they don't want to think about the housing because searching for cheaper housing, especially in a place like the Bay Area, is I mean, best case scenario, even if you find it, you're spending a lot of time trying to find it. You're going to a lot of sketchy, undesirable places and deciding against them before you find the golden goose of, cheap, reasonable housing in the Bay Area. But, at least if you're aware of the availability heuristic, at least if it's something that's like in your mind enough where you can ask yourself in important situations, am I too focused on a narrow set of things? Am I too wrapped up in a world of information that's only, recent? And do I need to take a step back and evaluate things from the perspective of me 5 years from now or 10 years from now or, whatever it is? Or perhaps do I need to go to someone else and ask them what they think of a situation? Do I need to seek out new and different opinions? Because it could be that the information available to other people is different than what's available to me. It could be that other people can more easily recall some details that are very difficult for me to recall, or some factors that are very difficult for me to recall. And that if I talk to them, they can clue me in on these things without as much mental overhead, and then I can, go and make better decisions about what's going on. And this works, sometimes. It doesn't work all the time. You talk to the wrong person about the wrong thing. But you can, I'll give you a good example, is when I got my mortgage. I was under the impression that if you paid the mortgage every 2 weeks instead of every month, you would save money, right? And the bottom line is, that's not really true. Sadly, that's not really the way that it works. If you prepay your mortgage, then certainly you will save money and interest. But setting up yourself on a 2-week payment plan instead of a, month-long payment plan does not really save you money. And the reason why is that, number one, you're still paying at the same interest rate. But number two, the bank actually charges you money to put you on that different payment plan. It's really trashy. Bank of America, really trashy. Like, they charge you a significant amount of money to get onto a bi-weekly payment plan instead of doing the once a month payment plan. And I wasn't really aware of this. Like, I should have been aware of it. Like, as somebody who did like calculus and crazy math in college, I should have, like, this was easy math. Like, I should have been on top of that, but I just didn't know anything about mortgages. I didn't know anything about fees. And when I spoke with the loan officer and I asked about that, it's interesting because it's not like he responded by saying, "Oh, wow, you're going to save a lot of money that way. It's a good idea. You're savvy." It's more like he responded like, "Why would you want to do that? I mean, I'll send you the information." So he sent me the information. I looked it up online and I figured out it was a load of crap. But actually, just by kind of his emotional reaction to me asking that question, that at least gave me a little bit of like pause, a little bit of like, woo, well, if he reacted that way, even though he didn't go into great detail about it, if he reacted that way, then maybe I need to take a step back from this. Something similar happened to me when I saw my financial advisor one time, a bad financial advisor that I ended up dumping. Anyway, I said, "Oh, my credit score is 815 because I was applying for a mortgage. I just checked my credit score." So I was excited because I was like, "Whoa, it's above 800. I'm such a badass. Wow." And he said, "You were paying your bills." And I was like, well, that's not celebratory. Like, that's not what I expected from this. But that was his message to me, a little bit subtle, but that's his message to me that, like, your credit score doesn't matter, dude. You're paying attention to the wrong thing. And that gave me more pause in thinking about the value of my credit score. But, availability heuristic, if all you're doing is looking at Credit Karma and Mint.com and all of these little platforms that are trying to sell you credit cards are telling you, like, your credit's very important for your financial health, then, like, that's the bullshit that's going to be readily available and readily come to your mind when you're evaluating the actual importance of credit, is like these most recent marketing messages. Anyway, don't want to get off on that rant. Just wanted to bring up and talk a little bit about the availability heuristic. I suggest that you look this up on Wikipedia. In fact, I'm going to copy it right now and leave a link in the description. But that is it for 5-Year Club video number 233. A little bit about the availability heuristic. Have a fabulous evening.